Everyone loves a good comeback story, right? Seabiscuit, the Mighty Ducks,
Robert Downey Jr., who
Rocky.
else? Yes.
Kim Kardashian.
Well,
In the video, she gets cum on her back, I think.
No Man's Sky, a comeback story? When No Man's Sky was first revealed at the VGX Awards in late 2013, it gained a significant amount of press, and it's not hard to see why. The game boasted an enormous procedurally generated universe that contained over 18 quintillion planets to be explored. To put that into perspective, even if you were able to travel to a new planet every second, it would still take you 585 billion years to see everything the game has to offer. And to put that into perspective, the universe we live in is only 14 billion years old. It certainly seemed like No Man's Sky was offering a lot of value for money. The more we saw of No Man's Sky, the more ambitious it seemed to become. The idea of the game was that players would randomly spawn on a planet with their ship, and would then have to gather resources in order to fuel their ship and fashion upgrades such as better tools and weapons. The goal of the game is to reach the centre of the galaxy where it's said a secret is waiting to be discovered. Along the way, players are encouraged to interact with alien species, log strange flora and fauna, and engage in side quests. And remember, the game is procedurally generated, so no two playthroughs were to be the same. No Man's Sky looked like the kind of game that would define a generation and push the industry forward, and the hype surrounding it reached fever pitch. Then the game came out, and it seemed we'd been sold a lie. Upon its release, it soon became clear that, whilst No Man's Sky was certainly as wide as an ocean, it was also as shallow as a puddle. Within just a couple of hours of playing, players had already done everything there was to do in the game. No Man's Sky certainly did feature countless planets, but travelling through the galaxy was a tedious grind with few meaningful rewards, a threadbare plot, and no real incentive to keep playing. To make matters worse, many features that the game's director Sean Murray had promised were absent. For instance, the game trailers had shown off unique and interesting planets to explore, each teeming with strange and wonderful flora and fauna, when in reality most planets were pretty barren with, at best, laughable creatures that were victim of the game's procedurally generated codes.
Will you be able to play with your friends?
No.
Yeah.
Is there a competitive element to this game?
No.
Yeah, if you want that, yes.
Can you grief other players?
A little bit.
No,
Will
you
there
can't.
be NPCs? Will I get bored playing this game?
Sometimes.
I swear I did not edit that. Fans who had been beside themselves with hype were crushed to see the game receive mediocre scores from critics. As you can imagine, the game found itself on the shit list of gamers, and, despite enjoying very strong launch sales, the game soon began to crash and burn. In the second week of sales, the game began to seriously decline, with numbers in the UK falling by 81%, and the number of concurrent players on Steam falling to just 23,000. The game launched in August, but by October it featured one of the worst user-based ratings on Steam, which is really saying something when you consider some of the absolute garbage for sale on that site. To make matters worse, Hello Games went silent on social media, and the lack of response and clarification from the developer only poured more fuel on the fire. As the face behind the game, Sean Murray began receiving a lot of ire from gamers, and it got to a point where the subreddit for No Man's Sky was deleted due to its toxicity. The Advertising Standards Agency in the UK began an investigation, and things got so far that the studio even received bomb threats. Safe to say, it was a massive dumpster fire. Still, credit where credit's due. Hello Games stood by No Man's Sky, and in November launched the first of several free updates called Foundation, which added features such as base building and purchasing massive freighters. A year after the game's initial release, the Atlas Rises update rolled out, which added mission and bounty boards, a new storyline, terrain editing, portals, and the first steps towards allowing players to explore together. No doubt these updates helped improve No Man's Sky for newcomers checking it out, but for many the damage was already done. Fast forward to the present, and No Man's Sky has just received its largest update so far. Called Next, this free update adds a plethora of new features to the game and brings it closer than ever to being the product that was advertised in the first place. Not only does this update make No Man's Sky a much better game, but it also seems to be the tipping point that has changed the public perception of the game and seems to finally be convincing players that No Man's Sky is worth another look. The update is completely free and offers up several key features players have been waiting for since the game's launch. Multiplayer is now finally available, and friends can team up to explore the galaxy together, or you can work alone and occasionally work with strangers you meet on your journey. If you prefer to be more of a space pirate, then you can prey on other players, and of course, you can take to the skies and engage in space battles. Like Minecraft, players can work together to create bases on planets and take on multiplayer missions together. Players can communicate via headsets or text chat on PC, and, if you so wish, you can play through the game from start to finish with your friends as a team of explorers rather than a lone traveller. Character customization has been added, third-person mode, overhauled user interface, overhauled economy, plus incoming weekly community events, to name but some of the new features. This update coincides with the launch of the game on Xbox One for the more attractive price of $50, and is supported by a 50% sale on the PC as well as a deep sale on the PlayStation Store. Public opinion on No Man's Sky has changed, and the tide seems to be turning for Sean Murray and Hello Games. Already recent reviews on Steam have turned from mostly negative to very positive. Xbox gamers coming into No Man's Sky will find a game far more enjoyable than the one which was released on the PlayStation 4 2 years ago, and those who quickly grew tired and moved on from the game back when it launched now have a reason to give it a second chance. In the current climate of gaming, it's so common to see companies overhype a game in order to turn a quick profit at the player's expense. Just look at the likes of Mass Effect Andromeda, Metal Gear Survive and Star Wars Battlefront 2. These games were all massively flawed, and rather than try and fix them, their developer just took the money and ran. No one would have been surprised if Hello Games had done the same, but the studio has instead spent the last 2 years trying to deliver the game it promised back in 2016. Look, I'm not trying to sugarcoat how badly both Hello Games and Sony misled gamers in the run-up to No Man's Sky's release, and much of the criticism that came their way was entirely justified, but I do find it refreshing to see a studio that stands by its game even during the worst of times. Much of the controversy surrounding the game's release was caused by Hello Games, and you have to wonder what Sean Murray was thinking when he advertised elements in the game that weren't present at all at launch. But, while it's important for gamers to call out companies for shady business practices, I think it's also important that we recognise when a studio or company tries to do the right thing by us. No Man's Sky may still not be the game we were all hoping for, but it's certainly a lot better than the game we played at launch. Listen, I'm not going to tell you to rush out and buy No Man's Sky, even with its current discount. There may be some of you who feel that Hello Games just doesn't deserve a second chance after the game's terrible launch, and that by buying it now we would just give developers the impression that it's okay to launch mediocre games with the intent of polishing them up later. However, I'm also not going to tell you to not go out and buy the game, because doing so can also send a positive message to developers that, even if your game has a rocky launch, standing by it can be worth the trouble. It's a double-edged sword, and I'm not going to tell you which way to go. That's up to you. So there you go. There are my thoughts on the comeback of No Man's Sky. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you interested in giving it a second shot, or do you think it's too little, too late? I think one thing we can all agree on is the fact that No Man's Sky taught us all a lesson about the dangers of overhyping any game. It certainly taught me not to pre-order games. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider liking it, giving it a share and hitting the subscribe button. That really helps me out. I put out videos at least twice a week, and I discuss all sorts of nerdy stuff from video games to movies to books. See you next time.